All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies class, I've been going through a series and creating a series of video presentations based on the Mozilla Developer Network Learn Web Development series. We're in the JavaScript portion, talking JavaScript building blocks, and it's time for looping. All right, looping allows you to do an action or actions over and over again. All right. And think about it. There's nothing wrong with the example that they give here, but think about something like a payroll for a company. If I work for a company and I have 2 employees, it won't be hard to probably create a payroll program for them. And there could even be some duplication because there's only 2 employees. But imagine I had 2,000 or 2 million employees. All right. I wouldn't want to be repeating the same code. Plus, maybe some employees have overtime and some don't, etc. All right. When you work with loops, as it says, looping is called looping, it's called repetition, and it's called iteration. All right. And again, a loop, as it says there, typically has one or more of the following features. Some kind of a counter that you initialized. Some kind of a condition you want to test for, and what they refer to as an iterator, which usually either increments the counter or decrements the counter until a condition is met. It is totally legit in here, and when you write loops, to leave 1 or 2 or all 3 of these off. You don't typically do that, but you could do it. All right. So they give you a pseudocode example. There's nothing wrong with it. All right. It says loops are all to do with doing the same thing over and over again to rapidly complete repetitive tasks that you or I might find so boring that we either wouldn't want to do them, or we'd rush through them, or maybe go through them so fast or whatever, so slow that we'd make errors. The computer doesn't get bored. All right. It says, let's suppose we want to draw 100 random circles. So if we click there they are. If I click again, I get 100 more, and 100 more, and 100 more. Would I really want to write that code, this code? And I could put this into another loop, and I could call it, for example, 4 times. And it would draw 400 different circles. Or I could change that to a 400 right there. You can see what happens as we keep going. So the standard for loop we've already talked about, but we're going to look at it again anyway. As it says there, for initializer, condition, final expression. All right. So let's pretend, we'll do something very similar to what we've done earlier, but we'll put a little wrinkle into it, in that we'll do this. Let's suppose, and I'll put a comment here, we want to print out all of the even numbers between 1 and 100. All right, so I'm going to say this. For, I like to call my loop control variable LCV for loop control variable. For LCV equal 1, so that's my initializer. LCV less than or equal to 100, that's my test, plus LCV, that's my iterator. So I'm going to do this. I'm just going to say if LCV modulo 2 equal 1. All right. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to list these numbers. So yeah, I want to print all these out, but let's create another variable. So I'm going to say let evens equal, and we're not going to put anything in there. So if it's equal to 0, meaning indeed it is odd, so I'm going to put a comment here that says, i.e., the value is not odd, but is even. All right, so if that's the case, what do I want to do? Well, I want to say evens equal evens plus LCV plus a blank space. All right. Now, what did that do for us? So when we're all done with the loop, I'm going to do an alert of these are the even numbers between 1 and, I'll tell you what, let's change it to plus, and we'll use our temperate literals. Evens. Okay. And what we'll do here is we'll just make these the ones between 1 and 10. Okay, we'll just keep it simple. All right, so we come through to the first time. LCV is 1. Is 1 divided by 2 equal to 0? No, it's not, so we don't do anything with it. We jump back up again and we add 1 to it, so LCV is now 2. All right, so what does that mean? Well, in fact, let's do the thing here. So we've got evens, okay? When we start out, it's equal to the empty string, so there's nothing in there. Well, we check 1, it's still the empty string. We check 2, that's even, so that's 2 plus a space. We check 3, that's not even, so it's still 2 plus a space. We check 4, yep, that's even, so that's 2 plus a space plus 4 plus a space. We check 5, that's not even, so it's still 2 plus a space plus 4 plus 2 plus a space plus 4 plus a space. We check 6, yes, that's even, 2 space 4 space 6 space. 7 is not even, still 2 space 4 space 6 space. 8 is even, 2 space 4 space 6 space 8 space. We check 9, not even, still 2 space 4 space 6 space 8 space. We check 10, 10's even, 2 space 4 space 6 space 8 space 10 space. So that's what evens is going to be equal to. And you might say, well, big deal, who even cares? Well, what if I had to give all the even numbers between 1 and 1,000,000? Now it's going to work. Now I'm not going to show you what that would look like because that's going to get pretty big. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, etc. This would qualify as a repetitive task. All right, so that's basically how you would come in there and you'd create a while loop. I'm sorry, a for loop. So I showed you the initializer. That was for let LCV equal 1. So that was the initializer. A condition. So our condition was LCV less than or equal to, whether it's 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000, whatever. And then we had our final expression, which they earlier called an iterator. All right. All right, I'm going through my own examples. I just don't like the ones that they've used. Exiting loops with a break. What does break do? With break, you're dead in the water. So let's suppose that in here, I want all the numbers between 1 and 10, and I'm going to put in here break if LCV is equal to 7. All right? So I've got all this. If it's equal to that, do this. But I'm going to even put something else before this. I'm going to say this. If LCV equal 7, break. So what's this going to do now? Let's look at it. This is still going to be 0. There's the empty string. All right, 1, This is still correct. 2 with a space. That's checking for the number 3. That's the number 4, 5, 6. Now it gets down, and yes, this is 7. So it breaks out of here. So that's, instead of having equal 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, break prematurely gets you out of a loop. All right. And if we contrast that with continue, all right, and let's say that if it's equal to 8, we'll continue. So here we're going to have all this, 2, 4, 6, etc. And we'd have it again, 2 space, 4 space, 6 space, that's 7. We skip 8. And we go right to 9. So 2 space, 4 space, 6 space, 8 space, and then we go to 10. 2 space, 4 space, 6 space, 8 space, 10 space. So whereas break breaks you out of a loop, continue says, okay, skip everything else in the loop, go back up and do the next iteration. All right, so again, those are my examples. So I showed you the break and the continue. All right, we're at 11 minutes. We might be able to finish this whole thing. Let's go back to what we did in here before, and let's not put in the break or the continue. We won't care. But let's rewrite this, and we'll rewrite it first as a while loop, and then we will rewrite it again as a do while loop. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say let LCV, my loop control variable, equal 1. Now, remember, this is our LCV. I'm sorry, this is our while loop. So it's while LCV is less than or equal to, we're going to make it 10 again. All right, we can do this same stuff that we did in here, but now we have to come in and say plus plus LCV. So the big difference here, this will give us the exact same output that we had before, but our initialization is done outside of the loop. Our iterator is done outside of the loop, and when I say outside of the loop, I mean the inside of here. The only thing that we do in there is the test. All right, it will do the same thing. A little bit more code. The other way we can do this is I can come down here, I can remove this and type in the word do, and then put in this. And it is mandatory that I put a semicolon at the end. This will also work and do the same thing. So what's the difference? Well, with the while loop, so let's go back and let's make this a while loop again. If this had been 11 to begin with, if that was 11, this would be false and it would be skipped. And it would just say these are the numbers between 1 and 10 or whatever, and this would be blank because we set it to blank right here. However, if we make this a do while, a do while loop always runs once. So even with that being 11, it'll say evens will now be equal to 11, and it'll say these are the even numbers between 1 and 10, and it'll have 11 right there. All right. And the takeaway from that is this is what's called a post test, because it does the check after you've already done the loop body. This is a pretest. So it does the check before it goes into the body. And just like this, I don't know if I can Control Z my way back far enough here. Yep, I guess I can. This is also a pretest loop. So if this was 11, we would never go into the loop body. All right, that's pretty much, so that's the while. All right, they've got this countdown thing in here. So what is this? I just don't like their examples. I'm sorry. I'll let you work on this yourselves if you're interested in this. What's nice about their examples is that, believe it or not, they're probably more. The examples I'm giving you are using JavaScript more as a programming language. The examples they're giving you are using JavaScript more as a web programming language. All right, so it's kind of what you're familiar with, etc. filling in a guest list. So there's another thing in there too. I'm not going to hit any of those. So which type of loop should you use? Typically, as it says, for most uses, they're interchangeable. Now, that isn't exactly true. With the for loop, you do always need to know exactly how many times you're going through the loop. With a do while or a while loop, you do not necessarily need to know exactly how many times you're going through the loop. All right. And that's it for this one. So making decisions in your code, conditionals and looping are now done. And it's time to jump into functions, reusable blocks of code. So that's what we'll be covering in just a couple minutes.